Okay, I'm starting the stream, so you should be good to start here.
Okay. With the mayor's not here, did he ask someone to run the meeting?
Alderman Simmons would be the individual that would operate the meeting.
Yeah, he's on.
Okay, you guys are live whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you.
Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a quorum yet?
Yes.
Okay. Then I'd like to call the meeting to order. We'll need a roll call in.
Okay, I'll call budget and finance first. Akers? Dobbins?
Here.
Milton?
Here.
Romine?
Here.
Simmons?
Here.
Yancey?
Here.
Okay. Alderman Simmons, we have a quorum for budget and finance, and I will call capital improvements next. Akers? Buckley? Dobbins?
Here.
King?
Here.
And Pinkley.
Here.
Okay. Alderman Simmons, we have a quorum for capital improvement committee.
Okay, thank you. And first item on the agenda is our regular reports then. Would you like to proceed with that?
The minutes first.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
If you've had a, yeah, I'm trying to use my little thing on the screen here and it's not coming across well. Anyway, if you had a chance to look at the minutes, I'd accept a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion. This is Pam.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay. Now can we go back to the regular reports?
Yes, certainly. Good morning, everyone. Let me scroll down here. And let me zoom in for you here. Okay, so these are our sales tax reports. This is going to be the 1% sales tax that you're seeing first here. So our October receipts are down 1.2% compared to the same month last year. So just remember here that when we are looking at October receipts, it's mostly August business activity. I think everyone was maybe a little bit surprised to see, a smaller decline this month. So I just kind of want to explain, we don't know exactly when we're looking at mostly August receipts, we don't know exactly if that means that August is truly on track with last year. We're still going to have another month whenever we get our November receipts before we actually know what happened and took place in the business community as far as sales tax goes. So we will really lean heavily on the rolling 12 report, which we'll get to here in just a few minutes, to know what our August business activity is. When we look at the rolling 12, it's going to be July right now because we're still going to have a lot of receipts coming in. So I just want to clarify that for anybody and make sure that, we don't exactly know yet. So looking at the next report here is our 0.5% transportation tax. So it also was down slightly at 1.8% compared to last year. And the next report here, a public safety sales tax, is down 1.5% compared to last year.
Hey, Melissa, real quick, a good gauge for everyone looking at these sales tax reports, especially in a time like this and a year like this, is something that I did for the last couple of months is not only looking at last year as to where we are, but scan through the last 10 years that we've got on that sales tax report for your benefit and look and see if you want to dive into it a little bit more. You can look and see the revenues that we've received for August year over year over year. That'll give you some idea as to where we're at really within the grand scheme of things. I think this report goes back to 2011, but we can see it a lot farther back. And I was able to go back and scan and look and see when you're looking at just month over month, look at where we fall within the last years that we've presented. It's just a good gauge. It's a good gauge for me. And I just wanted to step in and reiterate, when you're dealing with a year like this and we knew we were going to be down, we really had two separate set of financials because we dealt with COVID and we had to release a COVID financial. If you look at the grand scheme of this report and go back and look at previous years and where we fell, it'll give you some idea as to what we're dealing with for the whole year. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Melissa. I just wanted to step in, and it's really helpful to me. So I wanted to just give it back to you to see if it would be helpful as well. Thank you. I'm sorry, Melissa, for interrupting.
Oh, no problem. And that is a good point. I think the next thing that we need to look at is also going to be a little bit of a gauge for us, and that's the tourism tax reports. So, we're seeing that we had a slight decline over last year for our sales tax reports, but when we're looking at tourism, we're looking at being 20% down in our September receipts, which is also mostly August business activity. And when we look at that year to date, we're down 37.2%. So, I don't know exactly with the sales tax. It could be that, those numbers aren't down, but it could be that it's just a processing thing that's going on with the Department of Revenue. So we'll just have to wait until next month to know that. So the other thing to look at here with our tourism tax receipts that I think we've kind of found interesting is looking at, by class on tourism. So in the same month comparison, though, we're down 20% for the month's receipts. We're looking at amusements are actually up over the same month last year. And then looking at some of the decreases that we had, theaters are down 47.7%, hotels and motels down 36%, and campground down 7.6%, but our nightly rentals were up 43.4%. And then restaurants and concessions are down 14%. So this is just something that we will look at. Looking here at the year-to-date comparison is also really important on all the classes because year-to-date, all the classes are down. So it's just something to watch. Let's see here. The next report is going to be our rolling 12. So again, we're only looking at July receipts here. Next month, we'll be able to add August because we'll have most of the receipts in at that point. A quick thing to remember on this report is these amounts over here in the far right column on this first page, they're going to change month to month as we go back in and we add those receipts into the actual month the business occurred. So right now we are looking at our July being down 14.7% compared to 2019. Now the second page here, this is going to give us a 12-month history essentially. So this would be assuming that our fiscal year ended in July. So we are looking at the past 12 months being down 13.8%. So that's a negative 13.8% growth in our economy over the past 12 months. Okay, our next report here, these are going to be our sales tax receipts, but these are going to have the amounts that are restricted to TIF payments removed from it. So on this first page here, we are looking at our 1% sales tax. We saw a decrease in the month of just $15,000 compared to the same month last year. But year to date, we are looking at a decrease of $1.4 million in spendable dollars. And then this is going to be the same report except for our tourism tax. So for the month, we're looking at a decrease of $216,000 or $216,000 in spendable dollars. Year to date, we're looking at a decrease in our tourism of $3.1 million. Our final reports here are going to be our budget reports. So we are looking at our October receipts are down 3% from what we would expect to have received as far as the 5-year average goes for our normal October receipts. And then we are looking at a decrease in our budget of 16.6%. So just a quick note, this is the original budget. This is not Jamie's updated COVID budget that we had for 2020. And then our second page here is going to do the same report for our tourism tax. So for the month, we were down 18.5%, what we would expect to have received. And for the year, we are down 37.2%. And again, this is also our original 2020 budget and is not the updated COVID numbers.
It's a good gauge though for you, because if you recall on the COVID financials for tourism, we were estimating for the year to be down by 45%. And right there from budget, we're down 37%. So you can look at that number and gauge where we're falling in regards to the COVID financials, if that's helpful for you. But it's a gauge to see we're doing better. We hoped we would. We wanted to go with worst case scenario so that we can balance that worst case scenario and only come better, end better than we did. And I think we're doing that right now, and hopeful that our Christmas season will be just knocking it out of the park. So I just wanted to show you this is a good report so that you can gauge where we're at in terms of our COVID financials as well.
And that will conclude my report unless anyone has any questions.
Thanks, Melissa. It was a good job.
No problem. So I think our next item then will be our monthly financials.
I will move on into that if nobody has any objections to it. So Melissa, can you pull up that the financials for me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is the general fund. This is as of September 30th, 2020. Just point out some of the highlights here. We have a big long meeting, so I'll go through this quickly. And if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me on this. Our revenues as of September 30th are at 13.8 million versus last year at 16.2 million. Our expenditures at 6.4 versus last year at 6.4. So we're only slightly different there. And I will tell you that this year's expenditures came with 5% increase. So we did increase wages. We did have a slight insurance increase. So just keep that in mind. That'll show you how well the city is doing with keeping the expenditures low this year in terms of the COVID issues that we are facing. Okay, and then will you scroll down a bit so I can look at the transfers and guide them? Okay, so we have a $7.3 million transfer out, and last year it was an 8.5 transfer out. A couple of things to note. You will notice that the public safety transfer is down, and that's due to us reducing it in terms of COVID for the 25%. The same thing with the parks. You'll notice that it's down, and that's for the same reason. Convention Center is up. We did transfer more. The board elected to transfer more to them, and that's for the same reason for COVID. So a lot of the answers today are in relations to what the country, the world, and everybody's experienced with COVID. But I still say that if you look at where it says revenue and other sources over and under expenditures, we're at $16,963 over our expenditures. So while it's small, it is still, we're still good to the good as of September 30th. Last year, it'll give you a gauge, it was 1.2 million. So just keep in mind, look at that. Those are some areas for you to be able to analyze and ask me any questions that you've come up with on these financials. If there's no questions, I'll keep moving. Okay, so we'll go to the public safety fund here. This is as of September 30th. All of them are 3.6 million for revenues. Last year at this time, it was 4.4 million. Expenditures are 8.2 million this year versus last year at this time, 8.6. And then you have your transfer in and outs down at the bottom, and it was a $4.5 million transfer in total versus last year was 5.7. And we've identified that as we reduce the transfer out and in from the general fund, the subsidy, by 25%. You're sitting at an unreserved fund balance of 5.5 million. If you take a look at the revenue and other sources over and under expenditures line item, expenditures are over what our revenues are coming in, and as of September 30th. So really need to keep a watch on that. If there's not any other questions on that one, I'll keep moving. Okay, Melissa? Convention center revenues, 1.3 million versus last year at 3.8 million. Again, COVID, the convention center was hit by COVID just as hard as any other normal business was. If you can imagine, business travel is one of the first things that kind of stopped. People weren't flying, they weren't coming, so they were doing Zoom rather than actually coming to the location. So that will hurt convention centers all over this country. Total expenditures are 2.4 million versus 3.8. So this does show you that they have really made a good effort to reduce their expenditures in light of their reduced revenues. Their transfer ins, this is how much from the general fund. We've transferred in 614,437. If you recall, there was also another, there was a cash reserve that we held on their books that we transferred, and it was a cash to cash, so that would be balance sheet. You'll see that in a minute. However, if you add those two together, it was 204,000 plus the 614. So we've done about 816,000 to the convention center. And then you have the tourism transfer of 122,000. Those are relations to marketing expenditures. And then if you go back down to the line that I was referring to, the other two funds, the revenues and other sources over and under, you can see that the revenues are still under the total expenditures. So that is something to watch, especially in a year like this. Okay, let's keep moving, please, unless there's any questions. Okay, here's your tourism. Again, tourism is hurt. You can see 37% down with the taxes versus 18% in general. So we're down quite a bit, 5.9 versus 9.4 of last year. Our expenditures are 4.1 versus last year of 7.4. Now I'm going to touch on this just a little bit, strictly because there's an anomaly here, you know, the debt principal. So in 2018, we paid off a bond issue that was the 2010A, that was for some water and sewer infrastructure. That bond that was paid off in 2018, and in 2019 the 2007 series bond was also paid off. So if you look at the debt service principal, you notice that it's down quite a bit, and you know, my mind would be as to why is it down over year, and so that's why, because we've paid off two bond issues since 2018. So that's a good thing. We're getting our debt paid off, so I think that's great, especially in a year like that. We needed that. So Melissa, could you scroll down for a minute, please? Thank you. Okay, so our expenditures, while our revenues are down quite a bit, our expenditures are 4.1 million versus 7.4. Our transfers are 1,043,000 versus, sorry, one second. My iPad is ringing. I've not had that happen before, sorry. Okay, so the transfers 1 million versus 1.4 million. And then our total unreserved fund balance at the moment is 15.1 million. And keep in mind, there is a portion of that 7 to 8 million that is restricted. So take that into consideration when you're looking at the unreserved fund balance on the tourism fund. Okay, if there's no questions there, we'll keep moving. Transportation fund, you know, the taxes pretty much mirrors in general sales. So 3.8 million versus 4.6 million last year in revenues. And then the expenditures are 1.8 million versus 2.6 last year. So they've really done a good job. Now we did some hiring freezes. Open positions just didn't get filled in that year. And I know there's at least 2 positions for public works that did not get filled as a result, but they have still tried and done a good job of keeping their expenditures low in light of the issues that we're dealing with right now. So if you look at the transfers, they are down as well, 1.6 versus 1.8. And that's simply because the TIF transfers, we're not doing as well in the TIF areas. And so we wouldn't get them in and then transfer them out. But if you look at the revenues and other sources, we're still 364,000 over the expenditures. Okay, unless there's any questions, I'll keep moving. Here's your TIF debt service fund, and 8.7 million versus 9.6 last year. And then we had 14.3 million in expenditures versus 6.7. And if you recall, 7 million of those expenditures were where we paid off that bond that was in defeasance from our refunding of 2015. So that was 7 million that was in the reserve, and it was set aside for us to pay that from 2015. So that was a plan, but it is gone now, and that's why it looks like our expenditures were so much higher. Okay, we can keep moving there. And then here is your debt service fund for 160, 610, 816 is your expenditures, and really this is your, what we used to call the Branson Meadows. We don't have that TIF anymore, but we still have a bond associated to it, but that bond also has some land in it as well, so it's a mixture of, but we always have kept that separate. The TIF is gone, but we still have money transferring in from other districts to pay off that debt. And we're sitting at a $3.7 million reserve there as well. Okay, let's keep going. This is your capital projects. There's nothing going on really in this, just simply because we, as soon as COVID hit in March, we stopped all capital. Okay, we can keep moving. Perpetual fund, the same thing. You can scroll right through that. There's not much going on there. Here's the parks fund. Here's another major fund that I think is worthy of noting. Their revenues are 1.1 million versus last year at this time 1.5 million, and their expenditures are 1.6 million versus last year at this time 1.8 million. And so they have really really dove in and tried to cut costs where at all possible, and really tried to look at their revenues as well. If you'll scroll down, Melissa, please. The revenues and other sources over and under 91,000 over expenditures versus last year at this time was 374,000. So that's a good gauge, but their unreserved fund balance right now is $810,087, and that's as of the end of September. And then this one is just the combining of all of the funds I just spoke about, so we can keep moving through those. And then this is your water sewer. Consumption is still slightly down for the year to date. So you've got 2.9 million in water revenues, 3.5 in sewer revenues, and the total is 6.7 million in revenues versus last year of 7,038,000. So if you scroll down the expenditures, 8.7 million versus 8.9. They're trying to keep their expenditures down. We are 2,198,000 under revenues. I'm sorry, over revenues, but that also includes depreciation, in which it should. I think it's good to make sure that a depreciation is accounted for here, but on a cash basis, if you took that out, you're still to the good. Okay, if you want to keep scrolling down. And then this is our capital fund, and then this is the major capital fund, the 145 for the water sewer, and this is where all the major capital projects go. We just basically transfer money over to this fund, and then we manage the capital projects in that. They're sitting on a fund balance of, Melissa, if you could scroll down, please, 7.7 million. And that's because if you recall in the past, we used to, I think it was about 3 years ago, we used to just transfer that money on a straight line basis. When the capital was approved, we would transfer it month to month. Now we don't transfer it until it's needed. That way we can always save the money if something happens like this year and we decided that we're going to cut all capital, then we don't have that money moving over and sitting in there like some of this money is. Okay, so we can keep moving. The next one is the 146 water sewer. I know I'm really being redundant from all the other finance committees, but I think it's important just to give you a refresher on this. This is the small capital 146 fund. Again, there's not a whole lot going on in this, but this is smaller projects that maybe Mike and Kendall have going on, but they don't classify as the really large projects. So we still track the capital projects and we've divided those up. And there's not really much going on in those either. Okay. And then the next ones, we really don't have to talk about. These are internal service funds. The money gets transferred over there for equipment. And you know that we had some money planned to be transferred in. Excuse me. We had some money to be planned to be transferred in. However, COVID stopped. We stopped the one times, we stopped the capital, we stopped the transfers, just to make sure that we could accurately and properly maintain the operations for our city for this year. Okay, and that is your presentation for your income statement. If there's no other questions, I will move on to the next financial report, and that's your cash by fund report. This is just merely a report to show you all that what we tell you, the cash is in the funds that we have in the bank. It's just a brief reconciliation that we created many years ago to give you assurance that we are accounting for all of that. I said one way to check me, for those of you who haven't heard it before, is your income statement fund balance ties back to the fund balance on the balance sheet. This cash by fund report should also tie back to the cash on the balance sheet. So you can really look at them three ways and make sure and check me and make sure the flow's there. And if it's not, feel free to ask questions, and you know, that's what works. And I want to make sure you have the knowledge that you need to just really ask us any questions for your own assurance. And then this is the tourism, and then the next one will be the public safety one. Just real quick on the public safety, what we are in the transition of is transitioning. We combine the public safety, but for internal purposes, we wanted to really show police versus fire, and then they'll roll up at the end of the year. So we really wanted to look at that, and we're in the transition phase of doing that. So when you see the fund number 262 and 263, the 262 is for police, the 263 is for fire. And if you look, the 260 is the combination. So not all of the money has been filtered out yet. And we're going to get to that by the end of the year, and it'll be cleaned up and you'll see it. The total amount is accurate though. Okay, you want to flip through that? And then here's your balance sheet. I already touched on that. I spoke to that. Remember, the general fund and the public safety are the two that you won't see the fund balances directly matching, and that was because of the minor funds that are rolled up into the general fund, and we have that reconciliation. One of the items on here is like the municipal courts and your safety fund for the general fund. For public safety, you've got, oh, what are the names of those funds? The safety minor funds. Like yeah, okay, so the forfeit, I'm sorry, I just lost. Inmate security, forfeitures, and some of those specialized funds that we have to track. Those are the minor funds for public safety. And I apologize. I just lost the name of those funds. Okay. Okay. So we can keep moving down. And I believe that is just a really quick overview of our financials. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me anything. Is there any questions on any of the financials that I've just presented today?
Jamie, this is Michael. Did you touch on expect 75%?
Expect 75% of what? Are you?
That's what's shown at the top of each sheet. And as I reviewed those, I wondered.
Okay. I see what you're saying. That is that's your budget. That's where you expect to be in terms of September 30th. And that would be, you know, it's a gauge, But because we're in a tourism town, it's really hard to go off of that because you have more revenues coming in certain months than you do in other months. However, we leave that as a gauge, and then we have those other reports in comparison to budget to show you in terms of the tourism cities where we should be. But yes, if you want to look at the percent used, certainly you can look at that, and most of it we will be down in comparison to that, really, especially because of COVID, but certain months again are higher and lower than other months. Does that make sense to you? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
And that's just really a straight line across 12 months calculation. Any other questions for the financials at this time? Okay, we can keep moving. The next item on the agenda are just our regular reports, and these are some of the new reports that I started doing this year, just so that you all can be aware of the other items that go on in the finance department. So this gives you a look at the business license, the new ones versus the renewed ones versus the total. And it's just really for your knowledge. And if you have any questions, we're happy to answer those. But I just wanted to make sure that you have that information front and center, and we try to update it every month just so you can see how we're moving along. The next one is the procurement and how many bids that we've done, because purchasing is also in our office, and we just kind of wanted to give you an update on the bids and the process there. You can keep scrolling down through that one as well, Melissa. And then here is your consumption reports. In terms of water versus sewer versus irrigation. We have always used these in terms of looking at the water sewer revenues and how to gauge those. So we just thought that maybe you wanted that information in front of you just so you could take a look at it as well. That's why we started issuing those. At any time, if there's more reports that you'd like to see, or if some of the reports that we're showing are you just don't think are super important, feel free to let me know. We just try to put it out there as I'm going through it, and I think about it, and the ones that I like to use in order when we're doing the analytics on our financials. I just thought, well, if we're using them, then y'all might want to see them too. So it's something that we can pull. We don't have to do it, or we can add to.
Jamie, this is Larry.
Yes.
Hi. Sorry, I was struggling to Patty.
That's okay.
I'm going to go back to Michael's question.
Uh-huh.
When we have that like 75% percentage, that's a straight line 12 months. So through September, that's 75% of the year.
Uh-huh.
I'm wondering if it wouldn't be more of a helpful tool for us if we use maybe 10 years of history, and we know, for example, in March, we might not be through a third, but we have history of, as the months roll on throughout the year, we should be at this percentage of budget. Would that be a fairly easy calculation that we could use instead of the straight 12 months?
That is the report that we do. It's part of Melissa's reports. If you scroll up, it's called the budget report. And that's why we do that report, so that you can see from a tourism's perspective how we should fall. I'll show it to you really quickly. And we take 5 years average, and every year we drop 1 year off and add to 1 year so that you can see in line where we're supposed to be. So this report right here. So if you look 2016, 2015 through 2019, then we do an average of where we should fall on a monthly basis. Then we show you the 2020 budget and where we think it should fall on a monthly basis. And we do that calculation so that you can see in terms of September where we should be versus in terms of March, and so on and so forth. Is that what you're referring to?
Actually, it's really Michael's question. On the top of all the financial statements where it's written, expect 75%.
Yeah, I mean, we can drop in this annual percent budget on this report instead of the expect 75%, or I can simply remove it if that's confusing to you. That one's more as of September 30th. If it's straight line, that's where it should be. But if you want us to drop in these percentages that we have here as a result of our 5 years, analysis, we can certainly do that too. That is an easy fix.
Well,
If
Jimmy,
that's what you
let
all
me,
want.
let me ask you let me ask your opinion.
Sure.
Do you think if we dropped in this percentage, it would be more informational for us, or do you think it would be not as accurate or not a useful tool?
Well, it's fluid, but it's just, that one is just really a gauge. That expect 75% is really 75%, sorry. It's just really a gauge for you to understand, well, we're at the end of September 30th. Where should we fall here in terms of expenditures and those kind of things? Because some of our expenditures are straight line. Some of our a lot of our expenditures would be that way, but not our revenue. So it's a little bit different. That's why we've created this report, so you could see it both ways. In terms of my opinion, I really just think showing it both ways is helpful, because you can look at it on the income statement and see as a standard gauge, this is at 75%, this is where we expect to be. And then you can look at this historical budget from where we think we should fall because of the history. And you can gauge both of them. It's just a little bit more information out there for you to do a little bit more analytics. But
Okay.
again, if it's not that important to you to see the 75% gauge, that's something that I can change. For me, it's helpful, but if it's not helpful for you all, that's just completely up to y'all.
Michael, what do you think?
I kind of see it as finance's best guess at what that number, that percentage will be.
Right. That's a wages. If you think about wages, Stacey and I were sitting here talking about it. Wages is going to be at 75%. So your expenditures are going to be more in line with some of your 75% versus your revenues are going to be more in line with the fluctuations for the year over year, if that makes sense. So we're kind of giving you both looks. But again, I want to see what's important to y'all, because we have all this information at our fingertips. But what's important for you all to see?
Yeah, I think you made a great point. 75% is using that for this period is probably much more accurate on the expense side, but not on the revenue side, right? Because we could be in the month of, right now, for October, November, and December, we don't know historically what those 3 months, well, on a different report we do. It's okay. I'll follow your lead.
Okay. Is everybody else, anybody else have any input on that?
Hey, Jamie, it's Rod. I don't mind it being there because sometimes I would just do a quick calculation, especially on the revenue side. And if the revenue's running up, then you know it's going to track higher than the percentage that you have up there. And that's always a good thing. And then you can check the expenses pretty quick. So again, it's just a tool or a gauge, but it's hard to ever have it right on because it's just the way it is.
That's
yeah.
right. Thank
but
you.
expense wise, it's always going to track.
Yes.
And I did the same thing, Rod. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jamie, I just use that as an exception report. If you see something that's way off of that 75, then you want to look at it more in depth. So it's okay with me either way.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? It's a good question. Thank you. I think we can move forward if there's no other questions.
Okay. Then that brings us to disbursements. Would you like to go over that with us?
Certainly. We really put good descriptions in this form so that you all can see what they are. And what I will do is, if you have any questions on this, these are the expenditure items. And if you'll look at the check number, the check date, the vendor name, the description, is there any questions at this time for that?
And you do give us on our, what do you call our checking account through the bank, the card, our
The
card
P-cards.
account. Yes, you give us a separate list of that. In this case, there's none over 15,000, but
That's
you always
correct.
do that so that we can see if there's something in there that was also 15,000. Okay, thank you.
And then this is a report that we started doing. That's just a vendor payment tracking for capital projects. And then there's 3 right now invoices that are outstanding. We started doing this as a result of some things in history. So just so that you know, the top one, it shows service dates were in 2019. That is in a legal issue right now. That's simply why we're waiting on that. And the other 2, we pay net 30 for the really large capital projects. So that's where we're sitting at. Again, this is just something more information that we like to give out, something that we track and something that we look at. And if you guys don't see a need in having this report, we don't need to share it, no problem. But I just wanted to make sure that you could see and view what we're waiting on.
I appreciate it, Jamie, because it will become much more important to us as we get started back with construction. So it may not be too big now, but it will become that way. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Okay. Okay. Any questions on the disbursements? Okay, that brings us to discussion of the DBBA Tourism Contingency Fund application.
I'm sorry, Bob.
Yes.
We need a motion to acknowledge
Oh.
the receipt of the disbursements, please.
Thank you very much. Okay. Could we
Well,
have
this
a
is-
motion to?
Yeah, this is Rod. I'll make a motion to approve as presented here, please.
Okay.
This is Pam. I'll second that motion.
We need a second.
Did you? I will second that motion. This is Pam. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I hear you. Bob, did you hear Pam second the motion? Bob?
Not sure. He's not showing that he's muted. I think he must have had connection issues because we just lost him.
Did we lose our quorum as well?
Yes.
Okay, so we just need to wait.
Yeah, just a second. I'm calling him. Just to bring you all up to speed, I just talked with Bob. I'm having Chad call him now. He is having a bit of a connection issue. He is trying to reconnect, so hopefully we'll be back online here in just a second.
Hey, Jamie, you're muted.
Yes,
Hi, can I ask a question while we're waiting?
I don't see why not. Sure.
On when we pay the Branson Airport, does that money come from the? I know it comes from tourism. Does it come from the infrastructure side or the marketing side?
That comes from the infrastructure side.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Welcome.
Jamie, this is Michael. Do you have a second? Unmute.
Okay.
There
Yes.
you are.
Sure.
I don't know if we'll have an opportunity today. I know it's a long meeting, but do you think there's any chance that we could discuss this item right here?
What is that one? It's
You
in the
see
budget.
You
What
see the
page?
decline?
What page is that?
That is page 15. You can see my asterisks there. where we-
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's not on the agenda, and I know we don't have a quorum right now, but I'm wondering if today might be a good opportunity to have that conversation, or if we could talk about it.
For the public safety. That's what you're
Yes,
talking
and-
about.
and any potential plans or ideas or,
Yeah, sure. It's worthy of a discussion. We've got the audit presentation today.
right,
And maybe,
maybe another meeting.
well, and if the auditor, after his presentation, if we still have a little bit of time, I'll be glad to touch on that as well.
Okay,
Absolutely. I think it's a great idea.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Ah, Great. Sorry
Welcome
about
back,
that.
Bob.
I'm the Rodney Dangerfield of electronics. Okay, now, as far as the meeting goes, we had a motion and I understand a second to accept the disbursements. And is there any other discussion of that? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we got through the disbursements then. And now we can move to the discussion of the DBBA Tourism Contingency Fund. Who's going to handle that discussion, Jamie?
I believe, is
Linda Cherry?
Jessica here? Linda is?
Yes.
Jessica is not here?
No.
Linda?
Linda, I think you're still on mute.
Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate, and this is my first time with you guys, so thank you very much for having me here. Jessica's getting ready for Piccadilly tonight, which, as you all know, is a big fundraiser for downtown. So, so you guys have me. So yay! I'm not exactly sure how this all works. You've probably seen the paperwork in front of you. Do I need to reread our proposal or just ask questions? If you guys have questions, I can go over the finances on this and tell you how it came to be. But I guess I'm just open for questions. Is that where you want me to be with this?
Linda, how about telling us a little bit about what you're asking for?
Okay, so I'm an opportunist and certain things happened. Again, with COVID this year, we're seeing some down numbers everywhere, right? I don't need to go into that. So we were looking for how could we help the economic growth in downtown and give it a push in the arm. We've got some great things in place through the strip with the community Christmas tree and some other things that are going on, lighting at Old School Park. So we thought in the downtown area, we've really been trying to get Liberty Plaza as a focal point for the holidays. I've been working with a company called Holiday Bright Lights for about 25 years. They were a different name, but they also do a lot of the lighting at Silver Dollar City. So it's a very good commercial company. They happen to have a tree sitting in the warehouse last year, I'll just say that very plainly, that they reached out to me and really wanted us to do, and it was just bad timing. So I've known Greg, and he called me again. He said, Linda, we still don't have anything to do with this tree. We're very anxious to move it and to deep discount it. They weren't ready to do that last year, but they are this year. So I was like, okay, maybe this is the opportunity to do that. So they are offering us, and again, we're thinking with these two entities, the one on Commercial and Main with lighting and wreaths on those big poles that we don't usually do. They're very big focal points. It would be good to enhance them and then put this tree in Liberty Plaza. It is a 30-foot tower tree. This is the same type of tree that is down at the landing, with the exception of, I think the landings is 36 feet or something, but it is a commercial LED lit 5-year warranty tree. These trees normally run between $25,000 and $27,000. They're willing to get it to us at $19,500, which is a $7,500 savings. And so I'm like, okay, I can't let this go by without at least telling somebody that's out there and hoping that maybe this might give us a push. So I took it to the DBBA. We talked about it. We figured out what we could do and how we could do this, and thought we would go ahead and push it across. But so basically this would be a tree that we would have for 5 to 7 years. It's warranted for 5 years, but the longevity on them are, I mean, if you look at the one at the landing, we've been putting that up for 15 years. So, you know, you take care of them, you put them away, they should last a very long time. The garland and the 3-foot wreaths on Main and Commercial, you guys know where those bump outs are. Those poles are quite large and they face like one is perpendicular, one's parallel, and then the other ways. So you would see them coming and going north and south. You would see them coming and going east and west. So it would be a good feature for right in the center of that intersection. Timing is such that things are, they are what they are, but we could actually make the timing of the Adoration Parade to light this tree, which would give us an ability to do some marketing and get some things out there. The way that marketing goes right now, I mean, between radio and social media, that's a pretty quick turnaround as far as when we start talking about it. So that's kind of where we are. So we were just thinking this was an amazing opportunity for downtown to be able to do this, and we just did not want it to pass. So does that help you guys?
It does. Can you help me and maybe the group understand how does this fall into marketing and promotional? So this money would be used for the Christmas tree purchase and setup. Is that correct?
That and the ability, it's something new. And so we all know, we've been told 100 times, it's all about newness and what's going on. So this would give us a lot of opportunity to talk about downtown, talk about the Adoration Parade, talk about the Christmas tree lighting, come and see it during the holidays, get people down to the downtown area. So that marketing aspect is what it would be. I think we went through this a couple of years ago with a real tree, which was awesome. It's just the logistics of a real tree I'm not even going to go into them. You guys can all just imagine everything from getting the tree to having it brought in to it dying to it not being very big. There's just a lot of logistics and a lot of money that's spent year after year that just kind of washes away. So this would give us not only a tree, but it would also give us the ability to market the downtown area year after year after year on this lighting. And this would also be one of the top 10 trees right now. I mean, that changes right from year to year, but it would be one of the top 10 trees in Branson. And just so everybody knows what a tower tree looks like, I kind of did that so you'd know if everybody didn't know. So 30 feet is a really big tree. It's not small. So it'd be something to talk about. And we would focus, we've got some other things, Santa coming, things like that we can focus around that would also be more marketing emphasis.
There's also another piece that y'all are requesting for $10,000, I believe, to market have the chamber market the downtown. Is that correct?
Okay, so we kind of threw that in there because we didn't know if you guys can do that or not. The CVB has cut back a lot of money because of COVID and everything like that. So our marketing budget for downtown is kind of not real big. It's not like it used to be. That 75,000 that we have, it got cut quite a bit. So we were thinking that if we could give them a little, like if we have a plan, and I'm sure Lynn would have a plan without any problem. We've talked about this year after year from them, and we kind of put that in there. I don't know exactly what that caveat and what that amount would be, but not over that amount, but we could talk to her and kind of refine that a little bit more. We were just looking at that to go out with social, go out with radio, go out with our outer 30-mile donut.
I'm not sure that piece would be applicable here, just because you really, what that would mean is that you are applying on behalf of someone else to do the marketing. So it would really have to be the chamber coming back to us, asking for that piece themselves. Does that make sense?
That's fine. We just didn't know how to present that. But.
Okay. Sure. I just kind of want to give you a heads up. So then I'm going to leave it open to the committee here for discussion on this item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jamie and Linda, I have a few questions.
Sure.
Linda, as I understand it, your request is coming out of the reserve contingency fund that we set aside for marketing.
Correct.
And Jamie, that figures 125,000 a year.
It's 125, and we've already given away 75, so we have 50,000 left.
Okay, so we have 50,000 of that contingency, and Linda's request is for
28, yeah.
um, well, I know with all the reasons, I mean, we don't need to rehash, with COVID and all that. I just think that out of the contingency fund that's already been set aside and unused, if the downtown can get a shot, which will also help increase all visitation to Branson, well, I'd sure be in favor of that.
I agree with Larry. This is Pam. I think we've got to we've really got to focus on Christmas this year. Not that we don't every year, but it's even more important this year than it's ever been before, I believe. So it's my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
So this
Daniel?
is Rod. So I'm in favor as well. And then my only other question would be for the marketing piece of those dollars. I guess the question I have is that say if the chamber was not involved, but if the downtown, if the association actually asked for the money, but then hired somebody to do that, how would that be different?
Well, that right now, if they wanted to apply for the marketing dollars on their own, they certainly.
Yeah. So if they applied for them on
Yes.
their own,
Yes.
and they didn't in the narrative, they didn't include
Right.
the CVB, and so it's just a question. If they didn't include, but then they had every intention of then hiring somebody to do that, I don't know what their expertise level is, what their staffing or any of that. So how would that be different than?
They can do that. They can
do that?
certainly do that. It's
Okay.
just they said on behalf, or I can't remember the exact wording,
Okay.
but for the chamber. So it gives the appearance that they're applying
Okay.
to the chamber.
On behalf of the chamber. Okay.
So, I mean, if they wanted to take off the chamber and just apply for those marketing dollars, it's a reimbursement. So we would certainly entertain that. No problem.
Yeah. So, and it might be splitting hairs. So I don't know. I was just trying to think out loud, it's kind of like, well, is that any different than, yeah.
No,
So,
you're right.
okay. Got it.
And Jamie, I believe that several years ago, the 75,000 was going to DBBA, and DBBA was allocating and spending those funds for marketing. A few years ago, I know that DBBA and the CVB got together, and Rachel suggested, which the CVB is doing, is they're using the 75,000 that is allocated for DBBA. However, they're directing where that money's going. So I think this request of the 10,000 would fall under the normal practice that the CVB is doing now, and that is they're directing the monies, even though it's us allocating it to the DBBA.
Yes, if I could jump in here, that's, I guess the wording as we put it on there didn't really reflect that, but yes, that is how we're asking. We're asking for additional marketing funds to do this. But yes, the CVB is overseeing our buy-ins, our cooperative buy-ins and things like that. And Rachel is overseeing that 75,000. So it was the check and balance there, but yes, we are requesting that as the DBBA. And then if we need to leave that caveat off of there in order for that to come across better, we absolutely can rewrite that line.
Well, and just keep in mind that this specific contingency funds, it's a one-time amount. It's not really for normal operational services or business. So I know the chamber has their own budget, and they use their own budget, and they divide that out, and that's up to them on how they spend that. So what does the committees feel on all of this? I don't want to be the one guiding it, just kind of and sharing what the intent of this contingency money is all about. So I'm open to hear what everybody else has to say on this matter.
Well,
Anyone else? Yep.
I would make a motion that we approve this application for the contingency funds for the purchase of the Christmas tree.
So the 28,000,
So what did they ask for? 28,000?
they asked for 38, but 10 of that included those marketing dollars.
Yeah, I would say the 28,000.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Then we can follow a discussion. Am I gone again?
No, you're here.
Okay.
No, I would second that so we can have a discussion. Sure. Sure.
Okay.
Fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
we have a motion and a second. Now for discussion.
Now we can have the discussion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I would be more in favor of having a motion for the 38,000. Stan, is there reasoning for the not including the 10,000 for the marketing?
I was going to let them come back with a different application for the 10,000. So we had this separated out and it was easier to focus on where it was going to go. But I honestly don't care either way. I just wanted to get us be able to talk about it.
Okay. Well, it's October 22nd. They need to start spending money. So I'm not sure what the procedure is. I would rather see the 38,000 be approved would be my motion. But I know there's already a motion on the floor, so.
And that, again, like I said, I am trying my best to stay out of this because I'm a Christmas nut and I would give them 128,000 if I had it. But I just wanted to get this going so we could actually talk about it and then decide which way we wanted to go. I have no problem at all with the 38,000. And I would be willing to amend my motion to provide for the total $38,000 in funding if that would get us moving along that direction. Pam, would you be okay with that?
I would.
Okay, so is that an amendment in a second?
That's an amendment to my motion. I think Rob was the second on it.
That was the motion, but you're now offering an amendment to your own motion, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Any discussion on that amendment?
Can I offer just a bit of information? The guidelines for this contingency fund, it may or may not affect your decisions here, but I just wanted to read that to you. The funding will only be considered if the event, attraction, or project cannot happen without the assistance of the fund of the contingency fund money. And I believe that is the case with the Christmas tree. The marketing, I'm not sure since they already have a budget for marketing through the chamber. That's just open for discussion on y'all's benefit. I just wanted to reiterate the guidelines for this money.
Yeah, I kind of thought about that too, but then my second thought was I could be wrong, granted, but I think that the chamber probably has already allocated their marketing funds for the year. I would be surprised if they hadn't.
They have. And our budget that's for out of our 75,000 that got caught because of COVID is little. So that's why we were asking for the additional for the downtown tree to be a part of everything.
Linda, are you saying they reduced the 75,000?
Huge.
Because of COVID? Okay.
Yes, I did. Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
And that's like I said, that's my second.
Understandable.
Yeah, and that was my second thought on that. But I would guarantee you that not only the cut would impact this, but also the fact that like Larry said a minute ago, it's already October, and I'm sure they've already spend out there for this. So I think it would be appropriate to make the whole 38,000 part of it.
And keep in mind, it goes to 2 readings for the board, and we have it set to go on Tuesday for the first reading.
Right.
Okay.
Can we ask for a second reading in the same night?
You can ask.
I'm asking because you guys, I got to get this tree on a truck from Omaha, Nebraska and here. That could take us 4
alderman on this committee, so you can ask.
I'm begging. I'm begging for 2 readings.
Bob and Larry are my 2 guys on the second read issue.
Totally up to them.
Well, that puts the pressure on us, doesn't it, Larry? But beyond this, again, the purpose of these funds, looking to next year and the year after, these are not intended to be ongoing funds. And there's going to be money needed for setting the tree up, taking the tree down. There are going to be ongoing expenses that this fund would not be available for in the future, the way I read the purpose of this fund. Is
That's
everybody
correct.
aware of that?
Yeah, that is correct.
Correct.
Okay.
And how are you going to store it? The storage is also a piece.
Yes, the storage is a piece. Right now for the first, so we're going to reach out. We've got some sponsorship going on that, but
Okay.
you know, we trying to handle that caveat.
Sure, no problem. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Oh yeah, it's 144 square feet of storage. It's not
Yeah.
a small amount.
No.
I personally, I think Christmas is extremely important to us this year in our Christmas season, much more so than it's ever been before. And because of that, I personally would not object to a double read on this on Tuesday night. And I know that's against my nature, but I think that this is something that would justify that. And I am for the marketing part of it also, because I think that's important. Now, you might not be able to get the full $10,000 spent or that amount of money into this in this short a time frame, but I think it does need something special. It needs to be included as part of the entire Christmas celebration. The new lighting at the old school park needs to all be part of the same promotion for the city of Branson. So with those things in mind, anyone else have any comments on this?
This is Michael. I had one real quick question for Linda. I'm supportive of this. I was just curious if you've had specific conversation with the CVB about marketing this and related funding.
Not in the related funding. I sit on the PR committee with the CVB, so I definitely have been talking to them. This came up so quickly, and Lynn's kind of a one gal show over there right now with the decreases and everything that they're doing. So she's very excited about if it'll happen. I have no doubt in those aspects. It's just, we haven't really got down to talking about all of the details of it, but I myself, and I'm on the DBBA and I'm on the PR committee, I would absolutely make sure that we are getting the biggest bang for our buck in those aspects of that marketing caveat. Does that help?
Yes, thank you, Linda. But I'm curious about how the money would who would be handling this marketing, especially on short notice? Would it be the CVB?
It would probably be the DBBA in conjunction with Ms. Woods, because she directs. They already have a lot of things in the pipeline going. And what we'd want to do to get the biggest amount of influx is to be able to slide into that pipeline with them right now, with the old school area and the community tree. They've already got a plan in place for some of that. So we would start to bring this into that also.
Thank you.
But they also have things for the Adoration Parade in place. So we could line these side by side.
All right, thank you.
Linda, just as a reminder, this is a reimbursement.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make sure that y'all are aware of that.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other comments from the committees?
Hey,
Okay.
Bob,
Yeah, go ahead, Rod.
well, did we get our second okay? Was that?
Yes.
We're good?
Yes.
Okay, good, good.
Okay, hearing no more comments then, all in favor of recommending this to the board, signify by saying aye.
Right.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes then. Thank you all.
Thank you guys so much for your time. I appreciate it. I'll look forward. I guess I'll see you on the 27th.
Okay, thank you, Linda.
Thank you. I'm out.
Okay, ready to move on to item 6, which is discussion of the S&S plumbing revenue contract renewal.
And Mike Berry will be discussing that.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. It's hard to follow Christmas lights with sewer, but we'll give it a shot.
Good point.
We have a revenue contract that we allow septic haulers to bring septic waste to our treatment facilities from septic tanks in Stone and Taney County. And we've done this for a number of years, and other cities around us do the same. And it allows these companies to not spread material out in the county. Instead, it comes to us for treatment through our processes, and then ultimately ends up in the Class A biosolids processing facility that we operate. So this material is taken care of properly. We have a certain charge per 1,000 gallons that we charge, and that is subject to our annual adjustments for sewer rates. The process has worked very well for several years, and we recommend this, and we'll take it to the board if these committees recommend it.
Okay. Okay, you've heard the recommendation. Any comments from the board? Okay. We, I guess we need a motion. We do need to formally approve this to pass on, do we not?
Yes, yes, please.
Okay.
This is
Okay,
Michael.
we
I'll
need
make
a
the
motion. Okay. Do we have a second?
This is Pam, a second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Now, any comments or any questions? Okay. Mike, just one thing. We do base that fee similar to an out of city fee for sewer. Is that not correct?
We do actually do a calculation of the actual cost that it takes to treat the waste that's brought to us, and that's what's being assessed.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second then. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes to pass that on to the Board of Aldermen. Okay, item number 7 then on the agenda is, whoops, go
Bob,
ahead.
could I interrupt for just a second? Just to a notification that the mayor is now present in my office on the meeting.
Well, great. Then if I back out, it won't be a problem. Mayor, do you want to take over at this point with item number 7?
Mr. Simmons, you're doing an awesome job. I've been here for actually 2 segments now, so getting ready to go into the third. I'm glad you're doing it. Thank you.
Okay. Then that moves us to the presentation of the audit report. Okay. Jamie, who's going to do that?
I'm sorry. We have Michael Keenan with Cochran, Heaven, Vic, and he's on. He's going to do the presentation for us.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes. Good morning.
My name is Michael Keenan. I'm with the auditing firm Cochran, Vic and Company. We're here to present the audit for the year ended December 31, 2019. In your packet were 2 items: the required communications and management letter and compliance report, and then the larger comprehensive annual financial report. And I've got a PowerPoint presentation that helps summarize the results. Going to the next slide, please.
Melissa? Hang on one second. Thank you.
A little bit about Cochran, Vic and Company. We've been serving Missouri and Kansas since 1975. We have go through a peer review where an outside accounting firm will review our quality controls. We have been awarded the highest rating as a result of that review. We're members of the AICPA and other professional organizations, and we're licensed to practice in both Missouri and Kansas. The next slide, please. The scope of the audit is the basic financial statements, which is the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, or the CAFR. The CAFR is going to be presented for consideration in the participation of the GFOA Certificate of Achievement and Financial Reporting. It should be noted that the city has received this award for 14 consecutive years and believes that the 2019 submission will also qualify. So that's a great accomplishment for the city. Our responsibilities is conduct our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, as well as governmental auditing standards. We're also responsible to plan and perform our audit to obtain reasonable, but not absolute assurance that the financial statements are free of material misstatements, and report on internal controls over financial reporting. The Auditing Standards Board of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, the AICPA, recommend that we communicate these matters to the governing board. Illegal acts, none came to our attention as a result of performing our audit procedures. There were no significant changes in accounting policies. We're pleased to report we had no difficulties or disagreements with management, and we've had full cooperation and access to the books and records. A financial and compliant audit really addresses three basic questions. The first question, are the financial statements free of material misstatement? And our response is we have issued an unmodified opinion that indeed the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. The second question, are internal controls over financial reporting adequately designed and operating effectively? We did not identify any deficiencies in internal controls that we consider to be a material weakness. Had we done so, we would be required to report those to the governing board. The final question, did the city comply in all material respects with finance-related laws and regulations? Again, no material non-compliance was noted with the finance-related laws and regulations that govern the city's operations. Other comments on the management letter, future accounting pronouncements, there's several listed there. We believe the one that could have the most significant effect on the city in the future is GASB number 87, reporting for leases, and that is effective beginning 1/1/2022, so a couple years out. And Jamie and I have had some discussions on that standard, and the city will be preparing, getting the information so that that can be implemented. And then finally, Cochran Head Vic certainly appreciates the opportunity to serve as the auditors with the city of Branson. I also like to thank city managers Stan Dobbins, as well as finance director Jamie Rouse, and the staff of the city for assisting us with this engagement. Very professional, and we're enjoyable to work with. Are there any questions I might be able to answer regarding the financial statements?
Do we have any questions?
I have a few questions.
Certainly.
Michael, I know that, or I don't know if this is a Michael or Jamie question. Jamie, we had talked earlier that you were seeing a difference for how to capitalize utilities and when they were placed in service. Would you just give us maybe just a brief recap of how that was resolved?
I am trying to remember.
I believe it might have been the 76 capital utilities, and your question was, when to start capitalizing them, when they're completely completed or when they're partially completed.
Yeah, we left them in CIP until they were done and in service in total.
Okay. So after the project is completed is when they'll be capitalized.
Yeah, we're looking at that this year for next year's audit with Michael. We've had that discussion, so we're looking at that for next year to look to see if we need to, do it by phases, if that's necessary. The intent behind what we had done is because there's several phases left undone, and it's not, it wasn't placed in service essentially because it was incomplete. But and even the first segment for 76, if I might just say, it's not done yet. So that's one of the reasons why we left it in CIP. But yes, we're having further discussions with that. And if Mike wants to speak to that, feel free. But that's something that we're looking at to possibly put a process in place internally so that we have guidelines to go by that makes sense to them and to us. Is that your question, Larry?
Yes, thank you. Michael, okay, I'll ask my next question. Michael, as far as and I'm assuming you use the term scope of work, would you share with us what your scope of work was regarding our public safety tax and specifically supplanting?
What, could you explain what you mean by that?
Jamie, would you explain?
Yeah, so I think the concern is that when the public safety tax was put into place, that wanted to make sure that no expenditures, maybe general fund expenditures, were taken out of the public safety tax revenue. So making sure that the money that we moved and the expenses are all public safety and none being supplanted from the general fund. And so I would refer you to page 18 of the audit. And I think I did a spreadsheet last year on the same topic, but public safety is a major fund. And so if you look at page 18, it's your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. It's got a specific, there's several of our major funds that are listed there, and you can do a comparison. But what I will speak to on that, we do a subsidy. And I know I'm being redundant a little bit, Larry, but I just wanted to go through it all. We do a subsidy for out of the general fund for the public safety. It's typically 7.6 million. That was the 2017 budget. And we reduced it by 25% this year due to COVID. The other thing is that all of the police and fire expenditures now are being coded to the public safety fund so that we can capture all of the expenses and all the revenues in that special revenue fund. One of the things that I want to touch on here is that no, there's not any supplanting going on as far as the public safety tax because we're very careful. The other thing is I want to tell you that this is not something that we had to do, but this is something that we did do. So all of the revenues that had to do specifically with the public safety that were already being generated in the general fund, we took out of the general fund and we moved it to the public safety. So not only are we not supplanting, we are also giving them additional revenues. So like the alarm fines, some of their inspection fees and all of those that were general fund revenues, we took out of the general fund and moved them to public safety. And the intent there is to capture that public safety special revenue, all of the revenues and all of the expenditures there. Now, when I say all of the expenditures, there's several things, several items that the general fund is paying for simply because as of right now, the public safety tax cannot afford it, such as their Verizon phone bills. We cannot charge them. All special revenue funds get charged an admin fee, and that fee is a charge for finance, procurement, clerk's office, contract management, all of those things. They have to be charged for that so that they can pay for all those services that they use from the general fund. And that's what is involved in a special revenue fund. However, we're not able to even charge them at this time for that, and nor do we. So I wanted to stress that not only are we not supplanting, but there are several things that we're not charging them for that the general fund is just consuming. And in addition to that, we're moving extra revenues out of the general fund that the public safety generated and putting them to that revenue. But if you want to look at it as far as the audit goes and for the public safety, it is a major fund. And so they do specifically lay out the public safety tax on page 18 of the CAFR. You can see the general fund, the tourism tax fund, the transportation fund, and you can go down and look at the public safety. And this is an audited financial, and it'll show you the revenues coming in, the expenditures going out, and the end of the year fund balance as well. So I think what I just spoke to, you can go through that and look as well to give you some assurance that we are not paying for general fund or any other fund expenditures through the public safety tax. Does that help you with your question?
It does, but let me just phrase it in a different way.
Okay.
When the public safety tax was approved, there was to be an oversight. The community was assured there would be an oversight committee overseeing these finances.
Okay.
Larry, that's not true.
Okay. Share, please.
I can tell you it's not true. That was never something that was said, that there was going to be another committee formed. Never. I was here. I was involved in it. I was the chief of police. Whoever that is not accurate.
The third time.
This is at least the third time we've had this discussion. We even went back and looked at all the minutes of all the meetings. It is not true.
That's what I'm just wanted to share. I want to thank the mayor for sharing that. So Stan, if that wasn't a part, boy, that's new news to me, because I thought that the Budget and Finance Committee, this committee that we're talking to now, was the oversight committee for the Public Safety Tax Fund.
They are the oversight committee for all of our funds.
Okay, so being the oversight committee, and the question has come up publicly a couple times for reassurance that there has been no supplanting.
Which there has not been, and you have been told that by now two different auditing firms.
Stan?
Larry?
When I talked to Jamie and I read the last audit that we had, the last audit did not include the statement that there was no supplanting. So
Larry, there will not be, because it says there is no illegal activity. To supplant from a restricted fund is illegal activity. Again, I've told you this repeatedly. You do not have a grasp of governmental financing and obviously auditing.
wow. I do have the interest of being an alderman and being on the Budget and Finance Committee, and when the community asks a question, I would think, having both titles, that I would be able to get the answer to that. Now, Stan?
You have repeatedly, Larry, and then, again, you have an auditor at your disposal that has sent you his report. He has told you there is no illegal activity, and you yourself have said that you have no doubt there is no illegal activity in open meetings. What I'm having trouble with grasping is that we continue to go back to this like you are not believing your own eyes or your own words. So I am struggling with that, Larry. When is enough enough?
Stan?
Larry?
As an oversight, if we have our finance department tell us that there is no supplanting, isn't there another step to say, okay, we're being told that, but can we verify that?
Larry, the auditor just did.
The auditor did not, Stan. You want me to ask the auditor the question again?
Ask him specifically the question.
Michael.
Yes.
Hi, this is Larry. In our public safety tax fund, when you conducted the audit, did you audit to verify there's been no supplanting from the general fund to the Public Safety Tax Fund.
Okay. What I audited were the revenues and expenditures for all the funds. And a part of our process is that we confirm revenues with sales tax, and looking at the Public Safety Sales Tax Fund, that was approximately 5.8 million. And then we do testing of payroll and related benefits that get charged to all funds. And that totals approximately, it looks like 11.6 million of expenditures. Plus, when we looked at how that public safety is funded, a significant portion of the funding comes from the transfer in from the general fund, which we confirmed between the general fund and the transfer into this public safety fund, as well as other funds. So we did not become aware of any supplanting.
Stan?
That help you, Larry?
I just heard him say they didn't look at supplanting.
Oh, my God. Michael, do you recall our first conversation in my office when I advised you that one of our aldermen had a concern about supplanting, and I asked to make sure that we were doing everything legally possible to ensure that there was no supplanting and that supplanting was not occurring?
Yes, I recall that conversation.
Did you see any supplanting in our budget?
I did not.
Now, Larry, is there any more ways you want to try to change this wording around to phase it to fit your narrative, because it's getting old?
Wow. This is the first time I've heard a third party say that they have either audited or reviewed the question of supplanting, and there hasn't been any. So now I heard it from our auditor. I'm good with this.
Thank you. Because I'm tired of my people being accused of doing illegal activity. I'm sick of it.
Dan,
I'm sick of the innuendos. I am sick of the nonsense. You want to play political games, you play them with someone else. You do not play them with my staff when there is no illegal occurring here.
Stan, I've never.
If I can get in here, gentlemen, we've got a time frame here, and we have another meeting at 12:30. So we've got to move on with our agenda here. I appreciate that. I appreciate the auditor making clear what his position is on that. It is their job to audit those funds, and they have done that. And they've been asked prior to the audit to look for any kind of supplanting from the general fund of expenses in particular. And they say they did not become aware of any during their audit. So I think we've done all we can do on this conversation right now. So if we could, I would like to move forward to the next item. I don't think we have to approve the audit report, do we?
No, sir, because it's just a recommendation to go to the board, because they're going to present Tuesday night as well.
Okay, then I guess we could use a motion for a recommendation for that to go to the board then.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Do we have a motion for that?
So moved. This is Larry.
Thank you, Larry. Do we have a second?
This is Pam. I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. We have a second from Pamela. Any more discussion? Okay, hearing none.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
All right, I don't want to stretch this out, but I just wanted to say that I did do a cursory of the entire document, and so I didn't read it all, but I wanted to commend staff and the auditors for doing continued outstanding work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I agree with that, and I did look at the.
I agree with that as well.
Good.
Me as well. It's Rod.
Yeah. There was a considerable amount of information on our pension fund in there. I was wondering in future audits, this year to me could change the situation for that pension fund. There was nothing material that looked like it needed to be stated this year, but next year, I think particular attention will probably need to be paid to that. And hopefully it will not deteriorate, because we do have an unfunded liability there. And so far it's not material, but it could become that way fairly quickly. Okay, thank you. Now then, all those in favor of passing the report on to the board?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Hearing none, motion carried then. Will be passed on to the board.
Thank
Okay,
you,
thank
Mike.
you. Now we'll move on to the next item, which is, I've forgotten and I've lost my agenda.
1 second, I'll get it. I believe it's the convention center
That's right,
review.
budget. Mhm. Are we gonna have a presentation on that?
The convention center, is Sam here?
Yes, I'm right here.
Go ahead, Sam.
Hi there. Well, thank you for the time, everyone. You see the draft budget there for 2021. I have a PowerPoint presentation that is about 4 or 5 slides long. There we go. It's basically a summary of what you just saw there. If we can go maybe to the next slide after the title slide. So here, what we're looking at is, and I believe there was an updated deck aside from this that will be given. 2021 budget versus the 2020 estimated actual. You can see there that our projected year end for 20 versus our 2021 budgeted year end is quite different due to COVID. So this budget was compiled and created and calculated with COVID in mind. However, it was not calculated with additional cancellations, a second wave of COVID, and of course, possible financial, political, or civil unrest that who knows what can happen in 2021 as compared to what happened this year. So this is fairly conservative budget, but yet I do want to let you know that additional cancellations could occur. We are seeing very, very good response for 2021, just to let you all know that you can see there that the net income or loss from the operations is about 347,000 and some change. That is certainly down from what was budgeted prior, which was about 500, 550. And you can see certainly less than a full COVID impacted year of 2020. However, it is moderate to the 2019, which is a normal year that we would call it. So be that as it may, if you look at the marketing funds, past expenditures, 2019 as an example was 152,000. 2020 we're projecting about a little over 400,000, and then we're going to use most of the marketing fund because it's there. Why not use it? We got to let everyone know that we're open. We have to let them know that we can safely host their meeting. So it's going to take some resources for that. If we go to the next slide. Here's a few highlights of the 21 budget. So you just saw the numbers, but let's talk about a little bit of the detail. The forecasted number of event days is right around 240. That's 240 event days. And just to clarify, an event day would include a move in, the event itself, and a move out, because you can't lease the facility during that time. So it's considered an event day. Now, in 2020, this year, we're right at 156. So you can see that it is projected to be better if everything remains on track to be positive as it's looking now, as of today. We're forecasting attendance to be up because of that as well, by 54,000 versus 38,000 that we're estimating this year, year end. And of course, we already saw that the net loss or gain projected is about 347,000. This does not include the marketing fund expenditures. So the 21 budget highlights, and I said this in the last meeting, but about 21 events have rescheduled from this year to 2021, and that is reflected in the budget. So that is good news. Now, however, that is not all of the events that we had, so we did have a lot of erosion for that. Some other highlights, American Cornhole's coming back. That competition is coming back for Memorial Day weekend. That was a huge success for the city of Branson. A lot of out-of-town people came, and a lot of spending occurred there. Once again, other events here, about 1,200 attendees for Assemblies of God. That's the senior adult ministry side of things. Destination Meets, which is a Midwest planner trade show. That'll be held here. So that is incredibly important because all the meeting planners in Missouri will be here, as well as the Midwest. So they'll get to look, touch, feel, smell the building and really have a good understanding of what Branson can offer. First time to host the Missouri Coalition of Behavioral Health Professionals, which is a 600-person conference, and that's actually growing a little bit more than 600. And then, of course, more large educational software there. MoreNet is a first-time booking here as well. So I think once they get a little taste of Branson and our customer service, then they'll be back year after year. And of course, we're rebooking 2 very large events for Waltrip Ministries. And you may or may not know this, but Prayer Mountain is in-house today for the entire week. And right now we have about 1,500 people per day in town just for that. So that is looking to come back as well. So next slide, please. So due to COVID, obviously, and we don't know what the business environment's going to look like in 21, other than our crystal ball, like everyone else's, is a bit cloudy. So we want to make sure that we continue to minimize expenses, and we want to increase revenues. So how are we going to do that? And I've listed some ways here. I've already reorganized the operating structure here to be a little bit more streamlined, which is about a 40% reduction across the board versus previous years. So we're going to do more with less. We're continuing to do that. We're going to continue some furloughs and salary reductions when necessary. So whenever our forecast looks like it's going to go off the track a little bit, we're going to pull back on salaries and furloughs. So unfortunately, that's something we need to do. Utility audit and controls. Right now, we're diving very deep into our utility audits to make sure that we're getting the maximum benefit and savings out of utilities, which is probably our largest line item in our budget. And we're just focusing on critical needs, not wants. I think for 21, the mantra is going to be, just like it should for everyone, is what do you need, not what do you want. So we have to insulate ourselves and be conservative with our spending because we just don't know what that business environment is going to be. So that's the expense side. But what are we going to do for the revenue side to grow top line revenue? Well, Venue Shield is ASM Global's safety guidelines for opening venues in operation within a pandemic such as what we're doing. So that's a whole safety program that we're rolling out to meeting planners for them to feel comfortable about coming here and have a safe meeting. We're going to utilize the marketing fund that's available. And we're going to actively, and you may have heard me say this, actively, not passively gain business. So it's much more than the past. It's not just going to be an ad out there and hope the phone rings. We're going to be active with this fund and our staff, and we're going to pick up that phone and we're going to dial, and we're going to make sure that people understand that we're open safely for business, and we're going to create the top line revenue aggressively that way, so not passively. I've talked to the Chamber and CVB about this, as well as the Hilton leadership, and we're forming a triad. And triad, for lack of a better term, is a teaming concept that will sell the convention center together as a team with the city as well. And we're going to go out there and make sure that all entities are covered where they have hotel rooms available through the Hilton and other hotels, as well as the Chamber's resources and what they can offer, as well as ours. So it's a teaming approach. It's monthly meetings. It's an agenda. It's a memorandum of understanding of goals that are aligned to increase revenue and to bring more economic impact to the city of Branson. And both of the entities have agreed to that. So we're starting that in January. Along with that is a team sales blitz. So, you know, the old dialing for dollars, you know, we're not waiting for the phone to ring. You can't do that nowadays. So we're going to prospect 3,000 contacts that will consist of lost business, date conflict, rotations out, all of those types of things we're doing within the triad as well as teaming. Sponsorships and advertising have not traditionally been touched in a convention center. We are looking for creative ways to sell sponsorships within the convention center. A good example would be the ballroom, maybe Central Bank of Missouri ballroom, that type of thing, where they get some mileage out of it as well as we get some revenue and have a team approach there as well. If you can go to the next slide, this is a reiteration of what I talked about prior, just a little bit of economic impact numbers here. 2019, which is only CVB events, you can see right there is over $14 million of impact. But then again, I believe last meeting I discussed that October 1 through December 31st of 20 is 15 million, which includes all events. So right now, as we speak, the chamber is calculating the projected economic impact of the 2021 budget and the event activity that we have there. And so that should be ready very soon. And I would like to share that with you whenever I have it. The next page is just a pure example of economic impact and how it's calculated. And I use the Crappie Expo that's coming up next week. As an example, you can see how everything is broken out, and this is the chamber's calculator that's been used. And I must say that they have been a great partner to work with, because they have opened up their resources quite a bit for us to work together. There's some methodology there on the right side about how economic impact is calculated. And if you go to the next page, oh, I'm sorry, that's it. That's the methodology. So in a nutshell, the 21 budget that is submitted, we feel good about it. However, if there is a second wave, I must reiterate, or any other type of business environment shift, that's going to go out the window just like it did for 20. It's just very hard to predict. So what we did was we took kind of a middle of the road approach to this and said, okay, it looks like this will be the case. First quarter is a little soft, like always, however, we budgeted even softer. And then after that, it would pick up in steps. So we do feel good about it. We feel good about how we're using our marketing dollars and how we're going to be teaming with other stakeholders like the Chamber and the Hilton to team sell to increase the top line revenue. Are there any questions that I can field?
Do you have any questions? Hearing none, thank you, Sam. I appreciate that. And that's probably a little better than I expected, really. And I'm certainly hoping it comes to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bob, can I make one quick statement?
Yes.
Not only coming from me, but from several I've heard in the community, there is sure a lot of appreciation for Sam and coming into the role that he has and cooperating with the CVB and the Hilton and his mindset. I just wanted to tell you, Sam, that the community is giving you high accolades.
Thank you, Mr. Milton. I do appreciate that. It's great to be here. It's a great community. We should all be very proud of Branson.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 9, which is 76 Entertainment Community Improvement District budget. Jamie, will you be presenting that?
Yes, sir. Melissa, can you pull that one up for me real quick? Thank you. This is a budget that we brought before. We helped the CID board. We brought before them. We made the few changes that they requested, and now we're bringing it before you all, since you are the finance committee, and then so that you can see the CID budget, and then it'll go to the board. The taxes, the CID got approved for annexation this year. So as of September 1, they will become fully annexed, and then all the businesses will begin collecting on that and their entire, I believe it's 5 miles. Okay, so that's the difference in the taxes, the 3.4. What we did and how we calculated the 3.4 million is we know all the businesses that are in that specific district. And so we were able to pull history and determine what we believed that pre-COVID the income would come in at, and then we backed 25% off of that to adjust for COVID. That's how we came up with those taxes and the revenues. Hopefully, we're conservative and the revenue will come in much better than that. Wages and benefits, that is the public safety, not public safety, Public Works Department. They have guys specifically out there to work in the CID district to clean and take care of and maintain those miles. And then we have the contractual services and the commodities in that as well. And we discussed the, hang on, sorry. The transfer to other funds, and actually this is not the correct one. We have adjusted it and it's actually only 500,000. We adjusted it. This is the one we presented to the CID committee, and they agreed. They wanted the transfer to other funds. They wanted to make that be 500,000 instead of 1.4 million. And the reason for that is just really simple. We calculated this based on a percentage. We just needed a methodology to put into this. And for those of you who don't know, the CID approved $9.2 million a few years back of expenditures that the city had already expended on the 76 project. They agreed to refund or reimburse the city for $9.2 million. And we have agreement on that. And so before the annexations were done, $180,000 a year was being transferred to reimburse the city, or to basically pay back that $9.2 million. We had to have methodology once the rest of the 5 miles was annexed. We needed to come up with a number to be able to transfer to pay the city back. So what we did and how we came up with the 1.4 is we did it as a percentage. We took the 180 and then we did a percentage to the revenue that had come in the past. That's where we got the 1.4. However, the CID board agreed to do 500,000 right now and eventually step that up. As you all know, it's going to be difficult for us to step into that financial market and go and get some bonding to have that money on the front end for a couple of years. We've talked about that even in this committee, just simply because of COVID and that we're a tourism city. There's not a lot of market right now for us to enter into. However, they did agree to do 500,000, and I will make that adjustment. We've already made it. I've already sent the changes to the board. They've already agreed. Somehow it just did not get changed here. But that $1.4 million is actually only 500,000. Okay. Is there any questions for that at all? I wanted to bring it before you so that you had a chance to review it. This will go before the board, and next month, all of the rest of the CID budgets will come before you for review, and then it'll go to the board as well. We're in the process of reviewing those and asking our questions as we speak. Does anybody have any questions regarding this at this time, regarding this?
Jamie, I have a question.
Yes.
The reimbursement to the city at one time was going to be $1.4 million, and the CID requested 500,000 annually. Could you share some of the background on that decision?
Certainly, they talked about it. They talked amongst themselves. 1.4 is a lot, and so they agreed on the 500,000. And it was just a conversation back and forth. Mr. Simmons, do you want to jump in on this conversation?
Yes, if I may. Jamie calculated that just by extending out the payment we've got now and into a payment for the new income that's expected. And so it wasn't a set amount of money when it went to the CID board. The CID board had a considerable discussion about this and what other money's coming in, and decided on 500,000. Now, this does not affect the total overall amount of money that comes in. It just affects the term of the loan. And so for next year, 500,000 is what the CID board has approved to be in the budget. That's about all there is to it, Larry. I don't know what else to explain you on it. There was discussion of how much money they could, how quick projects would get into process. There was discussion of the 220,000, I believe it is, that's approved for engineering. That'll be in addition to this 500,000 that's already been approved. So that's pretty well all the discussion there was on it.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Okay. Okay, any other questions on that? Okay, then we'll move forward to the discussion of the budget amendments, Jamie.
Okay, do we need an acknowledged, Melissa, can you help me out? Do we need an acknowledged receipt of this budget from the finance committee? I think we do.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt to have one just to move it on to the board.
Because this is part of the other CIDs, I think we need just an approval that acknowledges.
Okay, certainly. Do I have a motion then to approve this and to move it on to the board? That's the budget.
Pam, I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Pam. Do we have a second?
This is Rod. Oh, it's good.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, now then, moving forward to the discussion of the budget amendments.
Okay, we have, Melissa, can you put those up there for me? Thank you. We have 3 budget amendments coming before you today. They will go to the board as well, but we always like to bring them before you so that you can see them prior to them going to the board. The first one is the Public Safety Fund. And this one goes back a couple of years. In 2018, the 911 board made a decision to purchase their 911 and update all their equipment. And then Branson agreed to pay a portion of that equipment cost. The portion that is being billed is $52,607. And so we do need an amendment, a budget amendment, because that was not planned for. And that will decrease the reserve in that fund. So it's $52,607, and that is for Branson paying for the proportion of the 911 equipment updates that we agreed to a couple of years back. The next one is for the Water Sewer Fund, the Internal Service Fund. As a result of COVID and the shutdown in March, we had some scheduled lift station pump replacements. And we really need to get those done. The original contract amount was $132,000 to repair and replace the lift stations. And then we removed it as a result of us removing the capital and the internal service fund transfers and all of those kind of things to try to maintain operations for the city. But Utilities has indicated to us that 2 pumps in this contract are really in need of this replacement. And so what we would like to do is do a budget amendment to help them out with the $49,826, and it'll be coming out of their internal service fund, which is what it's for. So it's a great thing that we have started that, and Mike said that these really need to be done, and we want to honor that. So we're bringing that budget amendment before you all and for the board so that we can make that happen. The last one is the general fund capital projects, and it's pretty much for the carpet for City Hall, and I believe it's for the lobby area, the main areas in City Hall. And our budget amendment is for a little more than $4,000. We had already it was in the budget a year ago for $17,000. We took that money, as we hadn't had a vendor yet at the end of the year, so we could not encumber it. We took that money and transferred it to a capital projects fund and put it in there. So $17,000 for the carpet is already in the capital projects fund. We just need the additional $4,012, I believe, to finish out that and get that carpet replaced. And we're asking for a budget amendment for that. And those are the budget amendments.
we don't need to do anything on that ourselves. You're just informing us that it's going to the board that way. Okay.
That's correct. And we'll bring it formally before the board this next Tuesday, I believe.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions on any of those?
I don't, but I do want to let you know in case it impacts our quorum, I'm going to need to drop so I can commute in for our next session.
Thank you. We're trying to rush through. See you in a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. We're down then to the project status report, Jamie.
Just really quick, there's really not been a lot of changes here. So this is just a report that we present to you all. And as our capital projects start to pick up again for the 76 in downtown, this will start to change. But this is just to keep this in front of you all so that you know that we're tracking it. Okay. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay. Yeah. No, hearing no questions then, would you like to move along to your report?
Yes, please. One of the things that I wanted to talk about just really briefly is the dates for next month's meeting. I really think we need to have a meeting, even if it's a small meeting in November. What about, is it the 19th or the 20th? I think the 19th is a Thursday, the 20th is a Friday. I would like to just see if you all are open to that so we can get some of the additional items like the CID budgets that really need to come before y'all before they go to the board.
Y'all have, I'm booked all day on the 19th. I'm sorry, I've got a peer group meeting, but I'm free on the 20th.
The 20th. Does anybody else have the 20th at 10 a.m. available? Or
I'm okay on.
Yeah, this is Rod. I'm fine on the 20th as well right now. So
okay. So what we'll do, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, do we have a study session on Thursday the 19th?
I think it's scheduled. I don't know if we'll still have it, but yeah, I believe
I'm just wondering if we could do either before or after that, plan together.
Jamie, I can send out a doodle.
Okay.
Make sure and set both days just to make sure that we'll have a quorum.
Okay.
And see, I mean, if Pam's not going to be available, if everyone else is, we'll still have a quorum. So.
Okay, so we'll set it for the 19th or the 20th, depending on what the responses are that come back to the scheduling.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to share just really quickly, thank you all for the comments and for all the nice gestures. I mean, the staff here has worked very hard. We had the audit overlapping with the budget this year. And so there was a lot of work by a lot of people going on, and just honestly, we're kind of thankful to be moving on. There's been so much going on personally in my life, and I know the rest of our lives as well. So we're extremely thankful for how it's turned out. And one more thing I'm going to say, I'm very thankful for this city and what the city stands for. And I'm grateful to be able to work here. So I just wanted to leave you all with that. I'm thankful for this meeting, and I'll be seeing you in just a very short time at the next meeting. So is there any other comments?
Jimmy, I'd like to make a comment.
Yes.
When I've been asking the questions about the supplanting, I have never in my mind was thinking or suggesting that anybody has been doing anything illegal. I think the question came up, and I think it was more in the lines of, are we assured that there were things accidentally, like was landscaping transferred or the cell phones, or do we have assurances that there was no money supplanting? Far, far from questioning, is anybody doing any illegal activities? So I would like to think, as an alderman, if a question comes up, we can ask a simple question, and if there's, I just want you to know that there was nothing personal, nothing intended. It was just a verification of this is what we said we would do, and there's been an oversight to say, yep, that's what we said, and that's what we're doing. So it's nothing personal, and there was no attacking intended at all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Larry. I think that that comes from all of us too. Also, Jamie, we thank you and your staff completely, because you've made this seem as close to a normal year as it possibly could be when it's been anything but that. So we do appreciate that. Okay, no further business. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
This is Rob.
Pam. I'll make a motion.
I'll second it. It's Rod.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Anybody that's left still sitting there, I suppose, is a no.
Everybody take
Thank you.
care. It's good to talk to
Appreciate
everybody.
your